Hey everyone, it's Kim Adams. Welcome to Live Fearless. This podcast will help you learn how to get through your fears with inspiring stories from top athletes, celebrities, and everyday people who've gone through the darkest of times and emerged fearless.
So the first time that I worked in Detroit, I was at ABC in Detroit, just a young reporter. And I know you don't know this, but you were actually my first interview.
Oh gosh, that was so rude.
You know, I did my research on you and thought I knew everything. And now 23 years later, starting my new podcast, and you're one of my first interviews.
Small world.
It is. It really is. And I have to tell you, so doing my research, out of everything that you've accomplished, the thing that got me the most, how did you find a woman willing to stay married to you for 35 years?
She's a good one. She's a great mom and a great wife.
Yeah.
I didn't get married until I was almost 30 years old. So, and even better yet, I got married in a double wedding ceremony. My best friend, Dave Rosema, who might be crazier than I was at the time, married Joanne's sister, Sandy.
So they're still married too?
Oh, yeah. And they've got girls. We've got boys and a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And our families are extremely large. And our Christmas party is 50 people there, just the nieces and the nephews and the grandmas and the grandpas. It was great. It's awesome. Family first. It's the best.
Not that I didn't want to talk to you, but I wanted to talk to her too, because I just think it's incredible.
Tell her how incredible you are.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Good, thanks.
I was just talking to him that when I was doing my research for the podcast on him, even though I knew who he was, I was looking for stories and things like that, but I just kept coming back to, he's been married for 35 years. And especially for, a professional athlete and a broadcaster, I asked him if he ever thought he could find a woman that would stick with him for 35 years.
Don't jinx us.
No, absolutely.
You got 5 kids.
No, you do?
I'm a single mom of 5.
Easy.
I wanted a big family. I look forward to it. And I don't want them to, I'm not looking forward to being an empty nester.
For us, our family is everything. And they're, when everybody's all grown up, they're kind of your best friends as well. And so you're going to have that going for you.
Yes.
All built in.
Didn't you say we're cool, or they just feel sorry for us the other day?
Well, sometimes it's a little bit of both. I don't know.
We like to laugh. I especially have a hard time doing that. But our kids are funny. They're unbelievable. Of course, they chirp us both pretty hard. They've known us for their whole life. So we got a big party tomorrow.
We're doing a bridal shower tomorrow.
We're marking out 8-foot squares that everybody has to stay on.
So I'm working upstairs, but.
Are you seriously, is that how you're going to do that?
You know what? It's 25 people, and I think it's a manageable number. We have tables that are going to be distanced nicely, and we have the room to do that. So
take the temperature, mask.
We're good. We're good to go.
And we have a quarantine area.
No, we don't.
It's in the trees outside, though. All right.
Nice talking to you.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
See, she is your better half, isn't she?
She's amazing. It's just, you might think it wouldn't work, but it works perfectly.
Yeah.
I did what I know how to do. She raised our children for the most part, although it's not like I didn't do anything, but I was on the road a lot.
Right.
Did a lot of traveling with the kids. And I feel confident saying if you met my children, we both did a pretty good job. And it's just like the time of our lives being with them at this point.
Yeah, I always say if you screw up raising your kids, nothing else you accomplish in life will matter. It doesn't matter. And
knock on wood, we've not had to deal with serious tragedies, and I feel for so many that have to. And we both are grateful and try and give back.
And you do give back. You give back quite a bit. And, I know you have your golf outing coming up. A little different this year, though, with COVID. Tell me about, Well, first, do you mind taking me back to, I believe it was April 28th, 2015.
My journey has been a go, go, go journey. I've been an athlete my whole life. My parents were very structured, and they believed in doing what we committed to. That might have meant giving up a camping trip or so. Went to Michigan State, got noticed when Michigan State was looking at a guy who played for West Bloomfield High School in a football game. I scored a couple 60-yard touchdowns that game. The guy said, "Man, who's that guy?" Then he came and watched me play basketball, and I did good there. And I was not highly recruited, but I got a visit up there, and many other young athletes turned down Michigan State, and there was Kirk Gibson down at the bottom of the barrel waiting for an opportunity. I worked very hard to prepare when we went up there. I started my first game there. We went on probation for 3 years. It seemed like a bad break, but it turned out to be a great break because we got a new coach in Darryl Rogers. He was a passing coach.
Didn't you miss the Rose Bowl though? Wasn't that?
Yeah, we missed the Rose Bowl, but we stuck together, which was more important. But Darryl in my junior year said, "Hey kid, why don't you go out and play baseball?" I said, "Why? I want to go to the NFL." He said, "You'll be a top pick in the NFL if you do anything in baseball." So my junior year, I went out and played baseball at Michigan State, and I got drafted #1 by the Tigers. So that happened quickly. We won a world championship 5 years later. And we had collusion. I went to the Dodgers. What an amazing, blessed moment that was. I hit a home run that people keep talking about. I guess talking about positive things in your life is a good thing to do.
Just that little grand slam at the World Series. I mean,
Yeah. Well, and then of all the people, I got into the media and doing television games, which you'd never believe back in the 70s and 80s, but I did.
Mm-hmm.
And we had 4 children. And we've been tested along the way like everybody. But, we live a great life, and I became a manager as well. I love that. It's like flying the plane, you ever look in the cockpit of a plane? It's got all these things.
Yes.
I love to sit in there and just coordinate it. You got your feet going, your hands going, your mind going, your mouth going, your senses going. And it all just a smooth flight. And being a manager is kind of the same thing. You got this guy, you got that guy. This guy's toe hurts. This one's had an argument with his girlfriend. This guy said he's coming up and telling me he feels great, but I know he really doesn't. You got to read the other team. It's just great. It's a great challenge. I did that, and I got fired in 2014. Came back to do TV. And, I've always loved pressure situations. I always affirm that that's my best moments. But I got on live TV, and I had anxiety. I was like, what the hell is it? I've never had anxiety, but I had some things within my body that didn't feel good. And at that point, I realized there was something different because I'd had shoulder surgery, neck surgery, knee surgery, and some symptoms of other neurological situations. So I got diagnosed with Parkinson's. And
so the anxiety wasn't because you were going from being a manager to being on TV and you were uncomfortable. It was the onset of the Parkinson's symptoms?
I reached a point. I'd had Parkinson's. My first symptom was 2007 that I can think back at, okay?
Which was a tremor?
No, I was shaving one day and my left hand just started clutching up. Then I'd take this out of my hand and it would release. Didn't think anything big of it, but then my gait started hurting. Then my neck, my arm was in there. I was walking like this, and it was like, they thought it was from, previous injuries. Right. But that day when they, I think it was, who was it? It was Mario and Pemba. He's like, yeah, Gibby, and, how about Miguel Cabrera? He had a heck of a game today. Why, what makes him such a good player? Something like that. They lead in, and I've got a package that I'm going to roll in there, and I was just like, now, it happened to be one other time, but Ernie Harwell covered it up and said, well, don't worry, 3 million people in China didn't see that, Gibby. We just moved on. But I said, let's do that over. So, we went through the whole thing. It was like a wrap-up piece of the game. And I started to stumble, and I just took my AFB out, took my plug-in out, threw it on the ground, and said, I can't do it, and walked out and called Peter Secchi in Grand Rapids, and I just told him something was wrong with me. And he got me in to see a doctor, Dr. Giovannucci, and he got me over to see a neurologist and a movement specialist. And, pretty much that day they said, I'm pretty sure you have Parkinson's. We have some other tests to do. And I did. And
at that point, did you even know what Parkinson's was exactly? I mean, what did you know about Parkinson's?
I knew it's something I didn't want to have, and I thought I was going to die. It was like, how long? That's what I knew about it. Wow. So that's what we try. I started my foundation back in '96 to award scholarships, 2 to Waterford Kettering, 2 to Clarkston High School, every year at the end of the year, in honor of my mom in memory of my dad. And so then we got into this Parkinson's stuff, and I realized the journey from hearing I had it, the journey from wondering what I have to I got it to now what, and then I got to the point where I said, I'm battling this son of a bitch. I was just like,
yeah,
I'm not giving in. So I went in. You get on some medicine, and I did a lot of therapy. And I need to articulate my words better, and how to talk and project. The Parkinson's, it wants you to kind of mumble like I do, So yeah. I did that, and my foundation now stands for cooperation, collaboration, and teamwork. That's really who I've always been in on the teams I've been, and I realized being around. For myself and others who have the disease, exactly what it is now and what we deal with, and the things you feel, the things you do, the things you lose. There's a poem on line you can go to YouTube, and it's called Smaller. Just type in Parkinson's smaller, and kind of your world gets smaller. Your movements get smaller, your voice gets softer, your gait is smaller, your world gets smaller, capability-wise. So we've learned that, and I try to reach out as many people as I can. I've raised $1.5 million up at Michigan State, and probably another $2 million since that in 2015. And we help other organizations. The first person I called was Michael J. Fox, and his co-founder, Debbie Brooks, came out the next day. Been involved with that. Muhammad Ali and Barrow Institute down in Arizona. Michigan Parkinson's Foundation, we helped fund their respite program last year. We want to do it again. That's one of the reasons we're doing this virtual golf tournament this year. We have the COVID-19 that we have to deal with, but I still got Parkinson's. People still have cancer. You have dementia. It's like, okay, but we still have to make way as well. There are other things to deal with. So we've tried to do that.
Michael J. Fox and the Fox Insights, the study that he's done with people with Parkinson's during the pandemic. And there were some pretty shocking statistics. I mean, he said it was something like 64% of people with Parkinson's have had their symptoms worsen significantly during the pandemic, even though they didn't have COVID, because of medical care and physical therapy. And
it got stopped.
Everything.
The therapists got called to the hospitals. So there's no therapist. See, like I went to the Big and Loud program. It promotes your posture, big movements, and your voice therapy. And then I fund at Spectrum Health in Grand Rapids the alumni program, because your insurance, this is one of the problems with our healthcare. It goes for 3 weeks and then it's out. Then they go home, and very few people have the drive, because Parky wants you to just sit and feel sorry for yourself and be depressed. And that's what you got to fight through. So we fund that program, but my therapist got called to duty to deal with the pandemic.
Oh.
And that's what he's talking about. My symptoms have increased. I would agree with that statistic. And I would say that I'm going through a medicine change. I've been on a certain medicine since 2015. You're changing that over. So when you throw the pandemic in there and you throw the medicine change, the first adjustment was minimal. The second one, it kicked my ass. And if you sat down and talked to Joanne about it, it's been hard on her. I mean, it's been hard on everybody, but it's one of those things you just have to remain determined. You need to believe you're going to persevere through it. And I try and do my bucket list. But my bucket list is things I already know are fun. I don't try the new shit.
You're not jumping out of airplanes?
I'm not, well, I can't fly anymore because I have Parkinson's. I go out on the boat and teach the kids how to run it. It's a nice boat on Lake St. Clair.
Have you flown with the Blue Angels?
I haven't done that, but I've flown. I owned 2 planes back in the day. I've done one. My first plane was an amphib where I could land on land or water. My second one was a little jet. And I never did that. Back in the day when I was with the Dodgers, I used to always go up in the cockpit. Back in the day, you could go and sit with the pilots.
Yeah.
And we talked and talked and talked. That's why in 1985 I self-taught myself. I just love stuff like that. I love mechanical stuff.
Taught yourself to fly?
Well, I had to have an instructor, but I studied and passed my test. And now I sit on a plane, I'm following along, which is kind of dangerous. I'm saying I evaluate everybody, man. He's got bad feet. You can feel the yaw in the back. It's just I'm just an adventurous guy. I like to do that, and I try to keep doing it.
You were flying when you were playing?
Yeah, 1985.
Oh, I bet the man.
Actually, I set an altitude record in a STOL aircraft. And Jim Campbell, the president at the Tigers, was so pissed off at me because that was the headline. I was at an EA fly-in. I took the plane up to 26,500 feet. That was for a short takeoff and landing airplane. And, it was kind of crazy. And
what did he say to you when you got back?
He was pissed. He says, "You need to focus on baseball." I said, "I'll be ready." Can't ever accuse me of that. I like to snowmobile. I still try and do that. My eyes are kind of going.
Yeah.
Last year, Alan Trammell and I go across the Upper Peninsula every year.
Okay.
And then we go up through Copper Harbor. And you ever been to Copper Harbor?
No.
You know where it's at?
No.
Well, there's the Upper Peninsula. It's way at the tip. It's way on Lake Superior. And anyway, we were driving home, and he missed a turn and broke his leg. And, of course, I took it crap for that. But I still got the need for speed. I mean, it's just the way it is. We were lucky on that one.
You were gone a lot, but I would imagine you were still home enough to play ball with the boys?
Oh, yeah. Well, when I played here, when I got my kids were all night owls. Because, when we first started, we played 8 o'clock games, but we were home by 10:30. But then when I was in L.A., we were on that schedule, and Kirk Robert was 2 out there, and we'd come home, and then we had a pool, and I'd jump off the roof into the pool. We were always doing something. I mean,
oh my God.
When they were young, I had a place up on Harson's Island, and we had 3 boats up there. I'd take them fishing. Speaking of smallmouth, and I had all these little areas stored.
Uh-huh.
So I'd let him catch 2 fish. Then I'd say, let me see your hook. And I had a little file. I'd file the barb off it to make it more challenging.
Kirk!
Yeah. And then, my dad used to do for me, he'd say, quit rushing. And of course I say to my kids, quit rushing. And their favorite story is when my dad one time, he was barking at me about rushing, and he grabbed his tackle box out of the trunk and it went all over. Of course I had the same moment. So they said, quit rushing, Dad. Everything you do comes around and gets you.
I'm telling you, it's karma. It comes back to bite you. So the kids are adventurous, I would imagine, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we are a very recreational family, like the outdoors.
What is more fearful, going up to the bat in 1988 injured in the World Series, or getting that Parkinson diagnosis?
Neither. What's there to fear?
Fear is what's keeping them from everything they want. They let it stand in their way. What do? What is your advice to them?
That, like if I said, Kim, turn your stove on for 5 minutes and put your hand on it. Would you be fear for that?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so you wouldn't do it.
Do it.
So stepping up to bat, why would you be fearful? Because you think that you're thinking that you're not gonna do the job. Mm. But I had affirmations, and I said I love pressure situations because I performed even better. So there's a little formula that I learned in 1983. I times V equals R. Imagery times vividness equals reality. How vividly you can imagine something determines how real it becomes. So I'm going to explain to you what vividness is. You can make any goal you want. Okay. You can say, but to change your picture, there's a trick to doing it. So like I dropped 2 fly balls one day when I was playing right field on opening day in Tiger Stadium. I didn't like it when it was sunny out after that, right? Because I dropped those and that was my picture. So what I did was wrote an affirmation, and it went something like this. I'd love playing right field in Tiger Stadium on a bright sunny day because it warms the April chill in the air, and the fans' shirts are vibrant like a really cool painting. So do you understand the words I used? But here's the trick. That itself won't do it. Now you got to put some vividness in it. Tell me about the greatest, a great moment in your life.
The birth of my first child, my daughter, would be my greatest accomplishment.
How did it feel?
My world went from black and white to color.
So it was a good feeling.
Amazing.
So when you write your affirmation, you remember it, then you imprint it by thinking of how you felt. So you're storing that through that emotion with a vivid picture, okay? So in the morning you wake up, you say your affirmation, you got your eyes closed, and you feel the feeling. When you go to bed, you do it again. And now I know, you may have to do it 100 times, 1,000 times. It may never happen for you. But I'll tell you what, it's a lot more fun on your journey than it is sitting there being fearful.
When you wake up in the morning and you go to bed at night, now, what do you imagine?
What I imagine when I get up? I mean, I feel really good when I get up. I don't choose right now. I don't really have any ongoing active affirmations, which I do morning and night. But if something comes down and shit gets really tough, I will. And that's how I'll overcome it. So, I mean, there's certain things you get to your life when you say enough. That's when you do it. And I'm fortunate that I have Frank Bartonetti. He's an older Italian guy out in Seattle, Washington. I went there, it was 1983. Sparky and I really battled. And he said, he told me, big boy, you could better go home and get your shit together, because if you don't, I'm going to send you home. You can sit in your mama's lap and cry. So, I mean, I was kind of fighting the media, my family, the organization, society. I was just kind of an arrogant guy who needed to grow up.
That way when you were little, was it just, because I believe and you probably know this having 4 kids, they just come out wired a certain way. They all have one common thread, but they're all wired differently. So do you think you were just wired that way, or did something happen where you became that way?
To an extent, they're wired. My one son, Kirk Robert, he went to a private school. It wasn't for him. He was ADHD or whatever. Of course, back then you really didn't know it.
Right.
So we go in there for his evaluation teacher conferences, and this one guy just didn't like him, and he told about how he's fidgety and he was uncooperative and he couldn't sit still, and like you're supposed to sit in a straight line and not move and listen to boring shit for an hour. Because when you're ADHD, give it to me in 10, 15 minutes and let's move on.
Yeah, right.
Give me every 4th word, okay? So anyway, he's saying, and you're going to have to get him tested, and he's going to get on medication. And I said, well, what are you saying, sir? I mean, knew where he's going. He said, he's got he's ADD, and he just can't exist the way he is. I said, he's got ADD? He goes, yes. I love that disease. I got it. I mean, so, it's just, you just got to learn how to do it. And then the other part, when I played football at Michigan State, you put your shoulder pads on and they basically say, hit this guy and hurt him, kill him, hit him hard. Then you take it off, you take a shower, and you walk out the door, and you're supposed to be a nice guy. I had a really hard time with that. So,
yeah,
it took me a while to slow down, but Parkinson's has had that type of effect on me for sure.
it goes with that, what you were talking about with the, you're larger than life. Your personality is big. It's huge. You're a big guy. And like you said, you become smaller.
You check that poem out.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating, but it's got to mess with your mind a little bit too.
Well, first of all, I mean, I feel guilty that it's got to be hard for my caregivers. It's hard on Joanne. It's hard on the kids. It's hard on my friends. Yeah. I'll be someplace and I'll just get anxious and I'll have to go. And there's really, they've only got so much and they've been great. So I feel bad about that. I feel bad about being a burden. It's hard to button my buttons up. Say we're getting in the car, getting out of the car. I used to be really quick, the first guy, and really fast at everything I did. We'd walk into a Target store. I was 30 feet ahead of everybody, like my son, Kirk Robert, who's wired like me.
Yeah.
And, it's just, you do feel bad about that. And, it's cost me some things I really like to do. I can't fly now. I can't manage anymore. My world is smaller. My opportunities are smaller. But it's hard to deal with accepting that, because even though it's the way it is, you don't want to accept it.
Right.
So let me give you a quick thing on Parkinson's. You have in your substantia nigra in your brain neurons which produces dopamine. My right side of my brain works my left side of my body. Left side works my right side. So what happens is there's the philosophy and theory that a protein called alpha-synuclein, for some reason in Parkinson's patients, attacks the neurons. And it creates something called a Lewy body. It clots it and it smothers it and it dies. You show after about 75 or 80% of your neurons have been, they're dead, they've been eliminated, that's when you start to show symptoms. So I've lost over 80% of my neurons. And that's what starts to debilitate people with Parkinson's disease. And that's one of the things they're focusing on to try and slow it down, stop it, find a way to reverse it. But there's no cure, but there's a lot of people trying. And my Kirk Gibson Foundation.org, if you want to read up on some of the stuff that I've done. Mm-hmm. And I've got great volunteers, just an inspiring group of people who are trying to help and keep me going to try and help others. I mean, I was way up in the UP, and I saw this guy. I said, "Do we have something in common?" And he said, "Why?" I could just tell the way he walked and the way his arm was. And I said, "I have Parkinson's disease." And I could tell he was really shy about it. I'd become really good friends with him. And every year we run through there on our snow machines. I stop and I call people right into my foundation. I try and call and pump them up and say, "Come on, man." And there's some embarrassing things about having Parky. Big deal. Like when I found out I had Parkinson's, I immediately made it public because I know most don't. Most are going to lose their job because they have it. Most caregivers are going to lose their job because they're going to take care of the guys that have the Parkinson's. So, you know, it's different. It's a new normal, and we push on.
So you've got your virtual golf outings. People can golf anywhere. I believe I read. I'm going to put all the information up, but it's August 14th through the 17th.
August 14th through the 17th. You first of all go on to KirkGibsonFoundation.org. You sign up. Go to the virtual golf option. You sign up, and then you play on a course anywhere you want to do it. And you take some pictures, take some video, and you turn your score in. And then if you beat my team by the most strokes, you win. You get some prizes. Then later, what I really want to do is have a virtual party, because usually after those golf outings, you have, you have like a get together, a reception.
Dinner,
so we're going to do it that way. Okay. And we're just going to try and raise some money that way, and appreciate and support the fact that we've got the pandemic, and hopefully things will change where we can have bigger events. But I mean, everybody's playing golf. I play golf because, but I try and stay away from crowds. I get my mask on and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. But you're still playing.
I play. It can be ugly at times. It can be good at times,
You've always been a leader, even in the locker room and now in the fight against Parkinson's. And I have read, that there are some hopeful things happening. It sounds like, whether it's in your lifetime or the next generation, but it does sound like there is some progress at least being made. And hopefully this pandemic doesn't slow that, but you're certainly moving forward. And I really think you're amazing. And I know your stats in baseball and everything else, but like I said, when I started this, I think the thing that struck me the most was that you're a good man, you're a good father and a good husband. And to me, I think that grand slam was incredible and something that will go down in history as probably one of the best moments ever. But for me, I just think raising your children to be kind and decent and productive and being a good husband, that's the legacy that I think is really incredible.
Well, you paint a good picture. I would be more critical of myself. We can always be better. I strive to be better. And hopefully I can affect others. I was kind of a bully guy. And there's a guy who's really at the top of all my teammates I played with, not taking away from any others, because one day he had the guts to tell me I was wrong. And when I was being a bully, and he just said, "Gib, you're wrong. You owe the guy an apology. I don't care what you say. Love you to death. but you're wrong. And that was Alan Trammell.
Mm.
And Tram, we had a lot of fun. And part of my game was intimidation.
Yeah.
But like I said, pads on, kill the guy, pads off, be nice guy. I've always tried to develop a balance. I still feel like I could stand up and give a good hit or run, but I can't.
Right.
So you just have to accept that and find a way to get her done and be productive the other way. And you're setting an example, which I can't do well for all, and everybody's not going to like me. I'm not going to like everybody. But regardless of whether I like you or you like me, if we come together and collaborate, we might find a cure for so many people. 1988, I won the National League MVP. I lived in Lapeer, Michigan. We went to E.G. Nick's. About 60 people there. Oh, Gibby this, Gibby that, he did this, Gibby. I remember saying, man, this sucked. And everybody said, why? I said, it's just, I felt like I was taking credit away from others. Mm-hmm. And Sparky had told us that when you're a world champion, it's not worth it unless you do it the right way. Only does it count if nobody cares who gets the credit. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I was going against that rule. But here's the coolest thing why you strive, when you play with people you don't have things unfamiliar with, or maybe you got in a pissing match with them, you don't like them, or they don't like you. Because when you win the World Series, what do you have? A parade. And there's over 1 million people there. And for a moment, we all feel close. We all don't care what your political views are, and so on and so forth. We don't care that we're different. And that is fun. So what party do you want to go to?
The parade. I mean.
Yeah. And you're like.
We all make mistakes. And I think we're such an unforgiving society that if someone says something or pisses someone off, then they just write them off. They get fired and that's it. There's no redemption. So I'm wondering if, social media were around back in the day when you were having your moments, do you think people would be as forgiving as they were, that was just part of the game and part of who you were?
They're pretty critical. I mean, but little do they know, one of the reasons I did that was if they were on me, they were off my teammates.
Right.
So they could relax and play. That's one of the things Sparky asked me. He asked me if I could take it. I said, take what? He goes, can you take it? Basically, can you take anything? So he actually called me in and said, hey, the boys are playing a little tight right now. Why don't you do something foolish? And Brian Bragg was a reporter. He came in between a doubleheader, and I just went off on him. Everybody's like, what's wrong with Gibby? So they are all over there telling me how much of a jerk I was and everything. Everybody else just got to relax and play. Nobody else got judged. It was on me.
Wow.
So that's how he was. And to this day, an interesting story, sometimes you got to take it. And in 1983, Sparky, when we went to battle, he told me when the Hall of Famers were pitching, I'd be in the lineup. When the cake eaters were pitching, I'd be on the bench next to him. He was going to teach me a lesson. So, when you don't play, you're supposed to run your sprints before the game. I was out there running, and Sparky comes and lines up in front of me. He goes, big boy, if I was a defensive back, I'd be playing you press coverage. I'd be right on there, and you did this, I'd do this, and I'd hit you so hard. I said, really? But Dave Rose was over there. I said, I got down a 3-point stance. They go, Rosie, set hut. Sparky comes up like he's playing me on press coverage. I start to run, and I looked over my right shoulder, and he jumped an out route, and I just turned and smoked him.
Oh my God.
He was crying, and he goes, Rosie, that son of a bitch is crazy. I'm crazy, or the guy who stood in front of me? Can you take it?
You take it.
That's what I said.
So what is on your bucket list? You mentioned your bucket list.
Well, right now, my bucket list,
yeah.
I'm an outdoorsman, so we're going to head up into the woods. I have a facility up in northern Michigan. I still shoot bow and arrow. I'm trying to. It'll be challenging to see if this happens again because I'm shooting 48 pounds. I mean, I can barely pull it back and hold it. And then the other thing on the bucket list would be where we can start traveling again and start hitting our concerts. That's what Joanne and I love to do that more. We were supposed to see the Rolling Stones this year. We've seen them so many times. That's such a cool band to watch. It's amazing. These guys are in their 70s, almost 80 years old. Well,
I appreciate your time so much.
Thanks for having me. Enjoy your family.
All right. Thank you. Best to you too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again for listening to Live Fearless with Kim Adams. If you'd like more information on other ways to be fearless, you can subscribe to my podcast, and you can also find us on social media using the hashtag LiveFearlessKA.